What happens when the pillars of your family come crumbling down? For Lisa, that night would mark the end of her childhood innocence. She uncovered her stepfather's hidden affairs, setting her on a tumultuous path of discovery and emotional upheaval. How could love, once a comforting presence, turn into a source of such deep pain? The soft glow of her desk lamp cast long shadows around Lisa's room, a stark contrast to the darkness that loomed within her heart. She stared at her stepfather's phone, its screen illuminating her face as she hesitated, fear and curiosity wrestling for supremacy in her mind. They had shared so many moments together, laughter echoing through the halls of their once happy home. Now, as she sat alone in the dim light, the phone felt like Pandora's box, one that could either reveal comforting truths or shatter everything she believed in. Taking a deep breath, she leaned closer, her fingers trembling slightly as she navigated through the messages. What she found sent a chill down her spine. The text threads were filled with cryptic conversations, names and emojis swirling together in illegible ways that made her stomach turn. "Hey, can't wait for tonight." One message read, followed by another that simply had a heart and a winking face. Lisa's heart raced as a wave of dread knotted in her gut. With each new revelation, it felt as though her childhood innocence was slipping away like sand through her fingers. Flashbacks flooded her mind, fragments of family game nights, cozy dinners, and the pride she felt when her stepfather cheered for her at her piano recital. Those moments felt so genuine and warm, but now seemed to mock her as she confronted the stark reality of betrayal. Her heart ached at the thought of her mother's blissful ignorance, of how these messages painted a much darker picture than she had ever imagined. The smiles and laughter now felt like a thin veneer covering the cracks in their family facade. Lisa's internal conflict deepened. She questioned the very fabric of her family ties. What if she was right? What if all those moments had been a facade? Her mind raced with the implications of what she might uncover. Could she still love her stepfather, knowing the truth? Would this realization shatter the bond they had forged through the years? Each unanswered question draped a heavier weight on her chest, pushing her toward a precipice of discovery she wasn't sure she was ready to embrace. Suddenly, the quiet of the evening shattered her thoughts. Objects seemed to hold their breath as a noise echoed from outside her room, jarring her from her spiraling thoughts. Her heart leapt into her throat. Did her stepfather know she had breached his privacy? The very idea sent a wave of panic coursing through her veins, and she bolted upright, every sense tingling with anxiety. The shadows around her felt more ominous now, cloaking the truth behind layers of fear and doubt. What secrets lie hidden in Anne's? The shadows of her seemingly perfect family? The question lingered in her mind, pulsing like a heartbeat, driving her forward into the unknown. She had made up her mind there was no turning back now. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains, casting long shadows on the kitchen table where Lisa sat, cradling her mug of coffee. The taste had never felt so bitter, mirroring the tumult within her. She could hardly shake the knowledge that had crept into her consciousness like a thief in the night. Each mundane interaction since the night of her discovery weighed heavily on her chest, an anchor tethering her to an unsettling reality she wasn't quite ready to face. "Good morning, sweetie," her stepfather greeted cheerfully as he entered the room, his voice bright and warm, devoid of any hint of the turmoil lurking beneath the surface. Lisa offered a slight nod, her stomach churning. "How did you sleep?" he continued, leaning casually against the counter, a picture of calm. Each cheerful remark felt like a thin veneer over a deep, dark secret. Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that every word was laden with manipulation, fueling a growing distrust that settled like frost in her mind. "Fine, I guess," she managed, forcing it. A smile that felt more like a grimace. Inside, a storm of emotions raged: fear, anger, confusion, and yet, her stepfather remained blissfully unaware. "Just getting some fresh air later," he added with a wink, his eyes sparkling with what she assumed was innocence. Lisa's heart raced at the suggestion, an instinctual warning bell tolling in her ear. Fresh air? He could twist that however he wanted. After breakfast, Lisa found a moment alone with her mother in the living room. "Mom," she began, her voice slightly wavering, "I found these strange messages on Dad's phone." "Oh, it's probably nothing, dear. Maybe work stuff." Her mother brushed off the concern, her tone airy, as if Lisa were fussing over trivialities. "You know how busy he gets." "But," Lisa pressed, frustration bubbling below the surface. How could her mother be so oblivious? This wasn't just busy work. It was an indication of something darker, something that implicated their whole family. "Lisa, trust your father," her mother replied, returning to her magazine with a contented sigh. The dismissal stung, feeling like a dismissive shield around a truth that was about to shatter their world. Defeated but not deterred, Lisa slumped onto the couch, her thoughts restless. Just then, her younger brother, Jake, wandered in. Expression a mix of curiosity and innocence. "Hey, Lisa, do you think Dad really loves us?" he asked, his small voice cutting through her haze. "What do you mean?" Lisa asked, genuinely taken aback. "I don't know," he shrugged. "I just feel like maybe he acts differently sometimes, like he's hiding something." His words struck a chord, igniting a fire within her. "Exactly," Lisa exclaimed, her heart racing. "I've been feeling that too." A renewed sense of determination welled up inside her. They needed to figure this out together. That evening, as shadows deepened, Lisa stood in front of her mirror, steeling herself. She practiced the words she wanted to say to her stepfather, feeling the weight of the confrontation that loomed ahead. Could she balance the daughterly respect she was supposed to hold with the undeniable thirst for truth coursing through her veins? "What are you hiding?" she rehearsed softly, her voice steadying as she repeated the phrase over and over. Nothing could prepare her for the truth she was about to uncover. Just as she found her resolve, Lisa strode into the living room, her heart pounding with each step. But before she could utter a word, her stepfather's phone buzzed, pulling his attention away from her. The change in his demeanor was instantaneous. His cheerful facade shattered in an instant, replaced by an expression of panic that sent shivers down her spine. What could that panic mean? Lisa thought. Fear and anticipation colliding in her chest. A gaping silence hung thick in the air between them, her questions standing unresolved as the mysteries of that phone call remained tantalizingly out of reach. The clinking of utensils filled the air, a symphony of mundane chatter punctuating the otherwise tense atmosphere of the dinner table. Lisa leaned back in her chair, her eyes keenly observing her stepfather, Mark, as he expertly navigated the conversation. He wore a charming smile, one that rarely reached his eyes in moments like these. It felt as if the facade he wielded was a finely crafted mask, hiding more than it revealed. "What a wonderful roast, Mom," Lisa's voice sliced through the chatter, but her gaze never left Mark. "Isn't it nice to have the whole family together?" "Absolutely," her mother chimed, blissfully unaware of the undercurrents swirling around them. "I love our family dinners." Lisa shifted in her seat, feeling the growing weight of the secrets hovering just above their heads. She busied herself with her food, but the warmth of the meal couldn't thaw the icy fingers of suspicion gripping her heart. She felt so close to a truth that had eluded her, yet the walls of her family felt impenetrable, built up by years of curated moments just like this one. As if sensing her scrutiny, Mark's laughter came easily, his demeanor shifting from charming to defensive in a heartbeat. "You're looking at me funny, Lisa. Did I miss something?" He offered this with a tilt of his head, leaning forward slightly, as if inviting an explanation. Frustration simmered beneath her calm exterior. She wanted to tear down the walls of his charm and demand answers, but she hesitated, caught in the dance of family loyalty that had always been a part of her life. "Oh, just wondering about your trip last week," she said, carefully choosing her words. "You mentioned a meeting? I hope it was worth your time?" "It was nothing," he replied quickly, his gaze darting for the briefest moment toward the kitchen. "Just business as usual, right?" Her question was vague yet pointed, meant to test the waters without diving into confrontation. As her mother continued expounding on the merits of slow-cooked meals, Lisa felt a knot tighten in her gut. This was the moment everything would change. She thought bitterly, nursing her doubts in silence. Would it always be like this, treading carefully around the truths she sensed lurking just out of reach? In a corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of a woman she didn't recognize, seated at a table against the wall, whispering to Mark during a moment of distraction. Their shared glance was fleeting, but it sent a jolt of electricity through Lisa. A flicker of understanding dawned in her mind, colored by the familiarity of her stepfather's secrets. "Lisa, are you paying attention?" her mother asked, her voice light and teasing, pulling Lisa back into the warmth of the family. "Of course," Lisa replied, but her thoughts remained entangled with the woman's shy smile and Mark's defensive posture. Dinner unfolded, the facade of normalcy draping over them, but the tension escalated within her, boiling beneath the surface. Her heart raced with the knowledge that nothing was quite right. And yet, she felt powerless to incite the change she craved. And just as the last slice of pie made its rounds and laughter echoed faintly in the background, Lisa's eyes scanned the table. A nagging absence drew her gaze. Where was the small silver pen Mark always kept at his side? It had been prominent before, blinking in and out of focus like a beacon. The room fell silent as Lisa's heart dropped. The realization washed over her like cold water. His pen was gone. The missing piece became the final straw in a web of doubt and distrust that had clung to the edges of her mind. What else could she uncover during dinner? As the laughter rang hollow in her ears, Lisa prepared herself to face the storm, brewing just beneath the surface. The night had only begun, and questions loomed like shadows in a dimly lit room, waiting for her to summon the courage to chase them away. As Lisa rifled through the stack of papers tucked away in her stepfather's office, her heart sank deeper with each new piece of evidence she uncovered. They weren't just promissory notes and receipts. They were records of illicit financial dealings, leading down a serpentine path of deceit. This wasn't the man she had once idolized, but a stranger cloaked in secrets. With every document, the web of lies grew thicker, and a feeling of dread settled in her stomach. Her mind raced with questions. Who had he betrayed? How far had this deception spread? Feeling the weight of the hidden truth pressing upon her, Lisa sought comfort in the one person she trusted most, Jenna. As the two friends sat on the worn-out couch in Jenna's cozy living room, Lisa leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. What if I told you my stepdad is involved in something illegal?" "Huh? What do you mean?" Jenna's brows furrowed in concern. "Like stealing money? More like managing funds that don't belong to him." Lisa took a deep breath before spilling her fears. "I have proof, Jenna. It's all right there, in black and white. But if I expose him, everything we know could fall apart. My family." The thought ignited a fierce internal conflict. Would revealing his crimes truly protect them, or would it forever shatter what little stability they had left? Jenna bit her lip, her brow furrowing in thought. "I get that it feels like you're protecting them, but is it worth it?" Lisa pulled her knees to her chest, the emotional turmoil bubbling beneath the surface. "But he is my family, Jenna. What if it's just not about him? What if I ruin everything for something that might not even be my fault? But what about his actions?" "You could be saving other people from being hurt," Jenna replied, her voice rising slightly, laden with urgency. "Sometimes loyalty can blind us to the truth. Your stepfather's choices affect everyone. Do you really think it's that simple?" Lisa felt anger rush through her veins, a reaction she didn't entirely understand. What if it's not that black and white? A part of me can't let go of the love I have for my family. Jenna sighed, her gaze softening. "It's not simple. I just think you owe it to yourself to make the right choice for you, not just for them." Lisa's mind drifted as conflicting thoughts swirled like leaves caught in a storm. She was torn between the loyalty she felt for her family and the burgeoning awareness that truths lived beneath layers of betrayal. Each piece of evidence felt heavier, pulling her in both directions. Exposing her stepfather could unravel everything, or it could finally bring their family the clarity they desperately needed. As she drove home from Jenna's, she replayed every word of their conversation in her mind. What did it mean to choose truth over loyalty? The shadows of her potential revelations loomed large, but nothing could prepare her for what awaited her when she stepped through the front door. The next morning, just as she was beginning to gather the courage to confront her stepfather, Lisa found an anonymous note sitting on her pillow, hastily folded. Its words felt like a personal threat. "Let sleeping dogs lie." A chill ran down her spine. Who sent this? And what did they know? The weight of fear bore down on her. The implications stretched beyond her imagination. Was someone watching me? Did they know what I was about to do? A gnawing anxiety took hold as she pondered her next steps. She needed to act, but the stakes felt impossibly high. Would she betray her family for the truth? Each question rang unanswered in her mind as she tried to quiet the storm raging within her. This was no longer just about her stepfather's affairs. It was about her own dilemma of truth versus loyalty. And now, someone knew, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd crossed a line. What if revealing everything wouldn't just change her life, but also put her family's safety at risk? Lisa stood in front of the mirror, her heart racing as she prepared for the family gathering. She could feel the weight of the papers hidden in her pocket, evidence of her stepfather's affairs that could disrupt the fragile balance of their family. Each thought swirling in her mind was laced with fear. What if this confrontation shattered everything? Was revealing the truth worth the risk? She took a deep breath, steadying herself against the storm of anxiety that threatened to overtake her. This meeting could change everything, she whispered to herself. In the midst of all the noise and laughter that would fill their home later, Lisa felt trapped in a world that had grown increasingly suffocating. Her mind drifted to the past, to the moments when her stepfather had been the dependable figure, the one who filled gaps left by her absent father. Now, those memories felt tainted, like a film of dust covering a once vibrant picture. As the family gathered, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement, but Lisa couldn't help but notice the underlying tension that thrummed beneath the surface. Children played while adults caught upon gossip. Laughter echoed in the kitchen, yet subtle. Exchanges, furtive glances, hushed whispers betrayed the fractures in the family dynamic. The sweetness of the event felt like a thin veneer over a cauldron of emotions ready to boil over. "Isn't this nice?" Lisa's mother chimed, her voice bright but tinged with nerves. Lisa caught the slight tremor in her mother's hand, the way she fidgeted with her necklace, a habit that had surfaced ever since the tension had begun to show. "Yeah," Lisa replied. "Yeah," forcing a smile as the clock ticked closer to the moment of confrontation. With each passing hour, she felt herself becoming more unmoored, weighing the possible fallout of her actions against the quiet realities of her home life that had shifted so drastically. Finally, when the moment came, Lisa gathered her courage. With each gathered her courage, her heart in her throat, she cornered her stepfather in the den, where the muffled sounds of the gathering faded into a distant hum. She pulled out the papers, her hands trembling as she laid them on the table between them, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Do you think I wouldn't know?" she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Each word landed like a stone, heavy and deliberate. "These are your secrets, your lies. You've betrayed this family, and I can't just stand by and let it happen." The moment was electric. Her stepfather's face shifted from shock to indignation, and for a heartbeat, everything hovered in the balance. "Lisa, "You don't understand what you're doing," he protested, but the flicker of guilt in his eyes betrayed the confidence in his words. "You don't get to play the victim here," she shot back, her emotions swirling between anger and hurt. Atmosphere thickened, charged with unspoken acknowledgments. Around them, the droning sounds of the family gathering faded into a deafening silence as the truth hung in the air. Palpable and raw, conflicted expressions began to form on her relatives' faces as whispers began to ripple across the gathering. Just when it seemed the emotional stakes could rise no higher, her mother's face turned white with realization. Lisa watched as the contradiction played out. The woman who had always been her rock now teetered on the edge, emotions bubbling to the surface. Suddenly, the room felt too small, suffocating under the weight of betrayal. A stunned silence gripped everyone. Lisa's heart raced. In that pregnant pause, her mother's reaction sent shockwaves through the family. It was as if a dam had broken. What had her mother known? The thought hung uncomfortably between them, shrouding the room in uncertainty. Can such a family ever recover from this depth of betrayal? Lisa pondered, the question heavy on her mind as all eyes turned to her mother, waiting for a response. Amid the escalating tension in the living room, Lisa's heart raced, split between anger and sadness as she watched her mother's eyes dart around the room, searching for support. "I can't believe you did this," Lisa's mother finally said, her voice trembling with both hurt and fury. The air thickened with the weight of unspoken truths as her words hung there, a palpable reminder of their fractured world. Lisa felt her own defenses swell within her chest. She wanted to scream, to lash out, but instead she stood frozen, her mind swirling with the realization that this was bigger than betrayal. It shattered the very foundation of their family. Her stepfather, once a steadfast figure in her life, now seemed steeped in shadows, each choice echoing like a crack in a fragile vase. "How could he? Do you even care about us?" Lisa managed to choke out, her voice a mix of desperation and accusation. She looked into her mother's weary face, seeing flashes of pain and disbelief reflected back. Her stepfather, Tom, shifted uncomfortably under their gazes. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," he mumbled, though his eyes avoided theirs. Lisa, avoided theirs, could sense his regret in the tremor of his voice, a feeble attempt to shield himself from the shattering effects of his actions. "You didn't mean to? You destroyed everything," Lisa blurted, a swell of tears threatening to spill over. The father figure she had trusted was unraveling before her eyes, his vulnerability only deepening her anguish. How could someone who loved them act so callously? In that moment, it struck her the weight of his betrayal ran deeper than mere infidelity. It was a profound breach of trust that tore at the core of who they were as a family. The reality of her childhood began to feel like a mirage, a carefully constructed illusion that had masked deeper truths she'd been too naive to see. As the confrontation unraveling before them, intensified memories flooded Lisa's mind. Family camping trips, laughter over holiday dinners, late-night stories filled with fantastical adventures. All those moments were tainted now, shrouded in the betrayal she was forced to confront. Mourning for the father she thought she knew, Lisa felt adrift in a sea of confusion and sorrow. Tom's voice broke through her whirlwind of emotions. "I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I regret everything." There was a haunting sincerity in his tone, a realization that perhaps, amidst the chaos, there lay the seeds of remorse. "Regret doesn't fix this," Lisa's mother snapped, her voice sharper than before. "Your apologies can't undo the damage." Yet as Lisa watched them, she began to see the complexity of love and marriage, how easily trust could slip through the cracks, leaving only heartache in its wake. The revelation that her stepfather was human, flawed, and deeply troubled sent ripples through her understanding of forgiveness, and what it could mean. Could she ever find it in her heart to forgive him? Just when the air grew heavier with potential reconciliation, Lisa's attention was drawn to the corner of the room, where a familiar envelope lay abandoned on the edge of the coffee table, her name scrawled in her stepfather's hasty handwriting. Her stomach knotted at the sight. The envelope felt like an invitation to yet another painful truth. "What's that?" she asked, her voice laced with apprehension. Tom hesitated, a flash of panic crossing his face. "It's nothing," he replied too quickly, the denial ringing hollow. Against her better judgment, curiosity tugged at Lisa, drawing her closer to the envelope as her mother's frown deepened. The potential for more revelations loomed large, threatening whatever tenuous control they had managed to uphold. "Lisa," her mother spoke softly, a cautious warning, but Lisa couldn't tear her gaze away from the paper that seemed to pulse with hidden secrets. Inside, the family's fragile peace teetered on the edge of another cliff. What new revelations awaited her within that envelope? Would forgiveness ever truly be enough to rebuild what they had lost? The envelope lay in the middle of the dining table, a stark contrast to the dim glow of the evening light filtering through the windows. Lisa could feel the weight of it pressing down on her, an unsolved puzzle that threatened to shatter the remnants of her family's fragile peace. As she reached for it, her fingertips brushed against the paper, sending a jolt of trepidation through her. What could it possibly contain? When the envelope finally surrendered its secrets, Lisa's heart raced as she unfolded the letter. Each scrawled sentence felt like a betrayal, the ink narrating a story she had never imagined. Her stepfather's voice echoed in her mind as she read it, through the admissions long-buried truths and confessions that exposed a web of secret paternity issues. Betrayal twisted in her gut, like a dark cloud threatening to blanket her heart. Yet alongside the betrayal came an unexpected wave of relief. The revelation unraveled the idea of a perfect family she had clung to for so long, finally allowing her to breathe in the murky waters of her lineage. "Why didn't you tell me?" Lisa's voice trembled, the accusation barely contained, lacing every word with hurt. Her stepfather stood at the doorway, lost for words, guilt etched across his features. "I thought what? That it would protect me?" Lisa interrupted, her voice steadying as fury entwined with sadness. "Didn't you realize that hiding from the truth only made it hurt more?" The conversation hung, suspended, charged with unspoken anger and grief. Memories of her childhood fluttered through her mind. The laughter, the cozy family dinners, the moments captured in fading photographs. Were they all just crafted by a lie? Deep inside, she felt a shift. Lisa began viewing herself through a different lens, and as painful as that was, it nudged her toward empowerment. No longer the naive daughter relying on her family's idyllic illusions, she was emerging as someone determined to wield agency over her own narrative. The society's expectations and familial roles that had defined her began to crumble, revealing a woman yearning for identity and truth. Everything we built, was it even real? Her voice broke slightly, the question weighing heavily, not just in the room, but in her heart. Despite the storm of emotions swirling between them, the evening wore on with an air of cautious hope. Conversations turned toward healing, sharing fragments of themselves as they weighed their sorrows against the reality ahead. They spoke of new beginnings, of a tentative truce that felt almost fragile yet promising. But then, just as the shadows started to recede, a knock echoed through the stillness of the night, a sound that cut through their introspection. Lisa's heart plummeted. There was something ominously foreboding in that single sound. Who could that be? Her stepfather asked, a hint of worry creeping into his tone. Lisa felt her pulse quicken, the warmth of healing replaced instantly by cold anxiety. She exchanged glances with her stepfather, both of them acutely aware of the precarious state of their family. As they stood in question, the weight of unknowing pressed down once more. The door creaked open slightly, a figure indistinct but ominous appearing from the dark outside. "What does this mean for us?" she thought, her mind racing with dread. The fragile piece they had tentatively rebuilt was now hanging by a thread, threatening to unravel at any moment. As the unexpected visitor stepped forward, Lisa's heart echoed the question that loomed ominously in the air. What could this mean for her, for the family she was still trying to understand? This moment marked not just a new chapter in her life, but perhaps an entirely new story waiting to unfold. In that unpredictability, a flicker of hope sparked, hinting at the path of transformation and resilience that lay ahead. In knowing the truth, she finally began to know herself. What awaited Lisa as she faced the echoes of her past? Could the looming visitor somehow reshape not only their fragile truths, but also the very fabric of their newly grounded identities? As the unexpected visitor stood before Lisa, the air grew thick with an unsettling tension. It was as if time had stopped, the once familiar walls of their home now echoing with the weight of secrets long buried. Lisa's heart raced in her chest, a chaotic thrum that mirrored the emotions swirling within her. She could almost hear the whispers of her past, urging her to confront the reality that lay before her. "Lisa," the visitor began, their voice a blend of hesitation and resolve. "There's something you need to know, something your stepfather kept hidden." With each word, Lisa felt the ground beneath her shift. She couldn't shake the sense that her entire understanding of family was about to unravel. Her thoughts spiraled, memories flashing through her mind. The laughter at family dinners, the quiet moments shared with her stepfather, all now tainted by the potential truth she was being led toward. "What are you talking about?" Lisa demanded, her voice trembling. She had to maintain some semblance of control, even as her insides roiled. The visitor met her gaze, their eyes clouded with empathy. "He's been living a double life. There are affairs, multiple affairs, Lisa. You deserve to know." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. She wanted to recoil, to shield herself from the emotional storm brewing. But curiosity pierced through her shock. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve the truth. You need to see the man for who he really is, instead of the illusion he's created." Each syllable felt like a dagger, cutting deeper into the fabric of her trust. Lisa's mind raced. The man she had viewed as a protector, someone who had filled the void left by her father, was now a stranger. The foundations of her family were crumbling, and she struggled to keep from drowning in the tide of betrayal. I thought he loved us," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else, the warmth of her earlier memories now feeling like cold shards of glass. "Love isn't always as it seems," the visitor replied gently, their voice urging her to confront the stark reality. "Sometimes it's tangled up in deception and secrets. It's messy, and it hurts." The weight of their words settled over her like a shroud. In that moment, Lisa understood that this revelation was not just about her stepfather's infidelity. It was a profound moment of self-discovery, the first step towards unraveling her own beliefs about loyalty and love. Could she truly separate the man who had provided comfort from the one who shattered her sense of security? "Why didn't anyone tell me sooner?" Anguish creased her brow as anger bubbled just beneath the surface. How could he hide something like this? "Fear," the visitor answered softly. "Fear of losing you. Fear of disrupting the family, even if it meant building a foundation on lies." Lisa closed her eyes, taking in a deep breath, the painful insights flooding through her. "So what now?" she asked, feeling worn and exposed, yet sensing a flicker of resilience igniting within her. "How do I move forward from here?" "By choosing how you want to respond. This situation challenges us all. How do we reconcile our past with the newfound truths? It's a lesson on the fragility of trust and the necessity of self-discovery," the visitor replied, their eyes steady on hers, as if urging her to take that first step toward empowerment. Her breath hitched, but something clicked into place. The revelation may have been devastating, but it also held the power to redefine her future. "I want to confront him," Lisa finally declared, resolve hardening her voice. "He needs to face the truth of his actions." "Then that's where your journey begins," the visitor encouraged, a hint of pride in their voice. Lisa nodded, understanding that this was only the beginning of a long road ahead. As she braced herself to confront her stepfather, she felt a spark of determination. Each family had its secrets, but how they dealt with those secrets would shape not just their identities, but their bonds as well.